can you start with the image from Reddit of the notice that was posted on the fence? Okay. So what you have now, for those of you who are listening, is a removal notice for the fence that has been placed in front of the courthouse. This is the city government placing a notice on the fence that is used to protect the courthouse from nightly incursions by the protesters.
So let me be clear. The fence was erected by federal officers, and the city of Portland, the Portland Bureau of Transportation, is declaring that the fence that was erected by federal officers is a hazard and must be removed. Is that right?
A hazard.
But the fence was erected by federal officers. That's the piece
Yes,
I didn't hear you say.
So the federal officers have been left to defend these buildings because the city is not enforcing the law. So the federal officers are defending the buildings, and instead of defending them against incursions that come right up into, break into the building, start fires, all of this stuff, they put up a fence to reduce the access of these nightly rioters. Mm-hmm. The city is now saying, oh, you're blocking traffic, which is actually nonsense. It is true that they do come into a lane of traffic, but it's not like the traffic doesn't move. It moves perfectly well. Mm-hmm. But the city is now effectively signing up with the rioters to get the fence removed. The rioters try to remove the fence every night, and they frequently succeed. So the city has now taken a position on these riots. Okay, now do you want to go through the slideshow?
These are slides that you took. These are pictures that you took this morning?
Yeah, these are pictures I took this morning. So here...
When things are calm.
Absolutely calm, which is a reliable fact. They are calm every day during daylight hours. This is in the park directly across from the courthouse. This is a concession stand in which you can get free ribs. They've named it Riot Ribs, which is funny. But nonetheless... This is an autonomous zone, okay? It's undeclared, but it clearly is an autonomous zone. These concession stands are there every day. Okay, can you advance one? Here are city workers cleaning up the nightly mayhem.
Hey, Zach, we can't tell which. You're showing us two different pictures. We don't know what people can see at the moment.
Okay, can you go one more? Okay, here you see a huge number of barbecues. Okay, this is absolutely an autonomous zone. These barbecues are there. They are being used to cook food. Keep going. Okay, that one is not in the correct orientation, but you can still read that it says, "Get out of my city, feds go home." Now, remember, the rioters nightly attack federal buildings, and the police, the local police, are not enforcing the law. Therefore, I would argue that actually the feds have no choice but to defend those buildings. I mean, legally speaking, they have no choice. Mm-hmm. And so, in effect, we are being set up to imagine that there is a federal incursion. Now, there are things about the way that this influx of federal officers is going about their business that make me uncomfortable, but it's also not as portrayed. They are taking people into unmarked cars, but they themselves are clearly labeled as federal officers. And so...
Are there more pictures?
Yep, keep going. This one says, "There's no police force like no police force." So when people tell you that nobody is arguing for no police force, in fact, it's right here on this tree. Keep going. Okay. Our mayor is being taunted by these people, right? Ted Squealer, and he's depicted as a pig, and of course, pig means cop to these people. Above it is a sticker that says, "Gas me, Teddy." Now, I want to talk a little bit about this term gas, right? The term gas is being used to make everybody squeamish about tear gas. Now, I don't like the idea that tear gas is being used in Portland, but the thing is, tear gas is an irritant. Right? The term gas evokes mustard gas. It evokes Nazi gas chambers and Zyklon B. Mm-hmm. So the point is, the idea that Ted Wheeler is gassing people is being used to make him squeamish about doing what he absolutely must do as the mayor and police commissioner, which is enforce the law, which he is not doing. Let's see. The final sticker here says,
"Talk to plants,
talk to plants, not cops." Now, this is all very humorous, except that this "don't talk to cops" thing is being used to make a violent incident between the police and the protesters / rioters more likely.
It's divisive. It is dehumanizing. We saw the bits of this during Occupy.
Of course, it was considered treason to talk to the cops, even though it is necessary to talk to them. Frankly, they are citizens too, and it is necessary that they understand that they are not up against some monolith, but that they are up against people.
I believe that you had a conversation with a policeman during Occupy in Olympia, in which you talked to him, and I think maybe even a couple of other policemen came around and were engaging about the need to not follow orders when orders are themselves immoral.
Immoral orders.
This is the conversation that you were having with police, and you were being decried by fellow protesters for engaging with police.
Yeah, and that was a peaceful protest.
That was a peaceful protest.
But, that was actually...
And, when we were being told to get off the lawn so we didn't hurt the lawn, right? Like this, that was what this is pretending to be.
Yep, it is pretending. And that is... from the point of view of the New York Times and all of your standard Democratic outlets, the portrayal makes one move, right? The idea is this is all a reaction to a federal incursion. Therefore, this is effectively Trump deploying troops to the streets of Portland because we always were told that he was going to do this. It was going to be a power grab. But the fact is, no, there were federal officers defending these buildings because that's legally required. They are federal buildings. And then this surge of new federal cops is the result of the fact that these city cops aren't doing their job.
Yeah.
Oh, I should point out, the notice saying that the fence was impeding traffic and therefore had to go is actually part of a deeper plan, I am told.
You are told by whom?
Well, there were two people who had a sign out saying that they were offering free legal advice to people who had been released from jail after having been arrested in this circumstance.
People on a Portland in downtown Portland early on a Saturday when there is no activity really, but patently sympathetic to the protesters and no evidence that they themselves are adding to the chaos or the anarchy.
Nope, I would say these people looked like they were probably folks who knew what they were talking about legally, probably had been to law school, don't know. But
okay, so what did they say to you?
They said to me that the fence was impeding traffic where it was, but to move it back towards the building would violate the Americans with Disabilities Act. So effectively, they've got the feds where they want them.
What? Oh, God. The Americans with Disabilities are needing to go inside the federal, what? I mean, what is the access that is?
That's apparently the access, but I mean,
but okay,
yeah. I mean, I just don't even know. It's hard to counter the argument because I mean, presumably you and I would both want Americans with disabilities to be able to access this building. On the other hand, I don't want.
Well, and they blocked a bike lane earlier, and we bike, and we don't want bike lanes blocked, but for God's sake.
So here's the thing. If you're going to argue that this federal incursion is illegitimate, then it is your obligation to explain what is supposed to be happening. Because it looks to me like they have gone up against every tier. And the last tier, the only tier that won't give, are the feds. Right? I don't like that. That's not what's supposed to be going on in downtown Portland. Yeah. But if the city is going to abdicate responsibility and they're going to attack a federal building, which obviously they are doing to precipitate a federal response.
No, you get rid of these smaller, more local, more empathetic to your particular phenomenon, hometown police, and what you will get is a police state. This is what will happen.
Yep.
And that's not what I think is... That doesn't appear to be the goal by anyone here, but this will be the effect of going after the smaller jurisdiction policing, which is happening not just in Seattle and Portland, but in lots of places.
So let's talk a little bit about are there more slides there, Zach? You want to go through the remainder of them, and then I'd like to talk about the next level here. End the police occupation of Portland. I don't see that the police are occupying Portland. I see that rioters are occupying Portland. I mean, we've got effectively 2 months of nightly riots against federal buildings. So this is a false narrative that this is the police occupying Portland, and it implies, of course, if the police leave, everything will be hunky-dory, when effectively we can see that the people who are demanding this are attempting to light these buildings on fire. Should we allow that? Right? Okay, keep going. Trump Nazis go to hell. Okay, now this, I think, is the crux of it, is that we have a situation in which the fact of Trump in the White House and the fact, therefore, that everything federal looks to people on the left like Trump means that there is a total loss of coherence, right? More slides. So here you can see this is clearly an undeclared autonomous zone, right? These are concession stands set up in a public park across the street from this courthouse where nightly there are riots. It's clearly an autonomous zone. Any more? Here is where rioters have attempted to cut through the barricade. There are many of these breaches, and it is not difficult online to find video of the protesters shaking the fence down, ripping it apart on a regular basis. Anything else? This is actually part and parcel of what we were talking about before, this model in which the messages are being evolved online. Okay, here's a hashtag spray painted. Tear gas Ted. Yeah. Okay, tear gas Ted. Keep going. Okay, all cops are bastards, no justice, no peace. And that bit of graffiti on the far end says, fuck you, which in some sense I think may be the best description of what this means. Yeah. Here we see on the Justice Center, abolish USA. Now, be one thing.
How many of these people have ever been outside of this country? I mean, this has been my point for months now. I mean, years actually, because we saw this at Evergreen, that the most susceptible to this batshit ideology were the people with the most naivete about what the world actually looks like, what different people sound like and think like and eat like, and what their music is and what it is to be on the ground in someone else's culture. Abolish the USA? Try going somewhere else and living with other people for a while in the conditions in which they live, and come back to your home and let's talk then.